Our 10th anniversary should have been a night of pure joy. We were at our favorite restaurant, the one where I proposed to Megan. Candlelight flickered between us, casting a warm glow on her face. She looked stunning in that red dress I loved, her eyes shining, but not with the same light that I remembered. As the waiter poured our champagne, I reached across the table to hold her hand. She smiled at me, but there was a hint of something else in her eyes, something I couldn't quite place. It wasn't disinterest, but it was distant, as if part of her was somewhere else entirely. "To us," I said, raising my glass. "To us," she echoed, her smile growing a bit wider, yet still not reaching her eyes. The evening continued pleasantly enough, filled with reminiscing about our years together, the ups and downs, the little moments that had stitched our lives together. But throughout it all, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. It was as if there was a shadow hanging over our celebration, a silent intruder that neither of us acknowledged. A few weeks later, Megan started talking about joining a film club. She had always loved movies, and it seemed like a natural hobby for her. I encouraged her, thinking it would be good for her to have something she was passionate about. "I went to my first meeting today," she announced one evening. Her face lit up with excitement. "It was amazing. We discussed classic films and upcoming releases, and the people there are so interesting." Her enthusiasm was infectious, and I found myself smiling despite the small pang of unease in my chest. I was happy she had found something that brought her joy, even if it meant she was spending less time at home. Every Wednesday evening, Megan would head out to her film club, coming back late but always full of stories about the discussions and the new friends she was making. One name began to crop up more frequently in her stories: James. He was apparently quite the film buff, someone who shared her deep love for cinema. "James said the most insightful thing about Hitchcock's use of shadows," she would say, or, "James recommended this great foreign film I have to watch." At first, I didn't think much of it. It was natural for her to form connections with people who shared her interests. But as the weeks went by, I noticed subtle changes in her behavior. She started spending more time getting ready before the meetings, choosing her outfits more carefully, applying just a bit more makeup. One evening, as we sat down for dinner, her phone buzzed with a message. She glanced at it, and I saw her smile, a smile that was different from the one she usually gave me. It was softer, more intimate. "Who's that?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light. "Oh, it's just James. He's suggesting some new films for our next discussion," she replied, putting her phone away quickly. That was the first time I felt a real twinge of jealousy. I tried to push it aside, telling myself I was being paranoid. But the seed of doubt had been planted, and it began to grow. As the months passed, the distance between us became more pronounced. Megan spent more evenings out, sometimes claiming she was at extended film club meetings or movie marathons. Our conversations became shorter, our moments of intimacy fewer and far between. One night, I overheard her on the phone with James. She thought I was asleep, but her laughter and the soft tone of her voice told me otherwise. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, feeling my heart crack a little more with each word she spoke. I wanted to confront her, to demand answers, but I was afraid of what I might hear. Instead, I began to watch her more closely, noticing the small signs that all pointed to the same devastating truth. The undeniable distance, the constant messages, the late nights, all of it was leading me to a realization I wasn't ready to face. Our love, once so strong and unbreakable, was being eroded by an unseen force, and I feared that our days of happiness were slipping away, one film club meeting at a time. Megan's enthusiasm for the film club seemed to grow with each passing week. She would come home buzzing with excitement, recounting every detail of the evening's discussions. I wanted to share in her joy, but I couldn't shake the feeling of unease that had taken root in my mind. "Megan, you seem really happy with the club," I said one evening as she was getting ready to leave. She was wearing a new dress I hadn't seen before, and she had spent extra time on her hair and makeup. "It's great to see you so passionate about something." "Thanks, honey," she replied, flashing me a smile. It's so refreshing to talk to people who share my love for cinema. You know how much movies mean to me." "I do," I said, trying to keep the concern out of my voice. "Just make sure you're not overdoing it, okay? I miss our time together." She paused, her expression softening. "I miss it too. I'll try to balance things better, I promise." But the balance never seemed to come. Instead, Megan's dedication to the film club only intensified. She started coming home later and later, always with some excuse about an extended discussion or an impromptu movie marathon. I wanted to believe her, but the nagging doubt in my mind wouldn't let me. One evening, as I was cleaning up after dinner, I noticed her phone on the counter. A message from James flashed on the screen. Without thinking, I picked it up and read it. "Can't wait to see you tonight. I've got a special surprise for you." My heart sank. This was more than just a friendly exchange between club members. I knew I shouldn't jump to conclusions, but the evidence was piling up. I had to know what was really going on. The next Wednesday, I decided to follow her. I felt like a terrible husband, resorting to such measures, but I couldn't live with the uncertainty any longer. I watched as she left the house, then quickly grabbed my keys and followed at a safe distance. She drove to the usual meeting place, a small, independent theater downtown. I parked a few spots away and waited, watching as she entered the building. A few minutes later, I saw James arrive. He was tall, with dark hair and an easy smile. Megan greeted him with a hug that lasted just a bit too long. I stayed in my car, my mind racing. Maybe it was all innocent. Maybe they really were just friends. But deep down, I knew that wasn't the case. As the evening wore on, my anxiety grew. I wanted to burst in and confront them, but I knew I had to be smart about this. I needed more evidence, something concrete that I could confront Megan with. After what felt like an eternity, they finally emerged from the theater. They walked to a nearby cafe, their heads close together as they talked and laughed. I followed them, keeping a safe distance, and watched as they sat down at a corner table. The intimacy between them was undeniable. They leaned in close, their hands occasionally touching. It was more than I could bear to watch. I felt a mix of anger, sadness, and betrayal swirling inside me, but I forced myself to stay calm. I took a few photos with my phone, my hands shaking. This was the proof I needed, but it didn't make me feel any better. In fact, it made everything worse. The reality of Megan's betrayal was now undeniable. When they finally left the cafe, I watched as James walked her to her car. He kissed her on the cheek, and she blushed, looking happier than I had seen her in months. My heart broke all over again. I drove home in a daze, my mind replaying the events of the evening. How had it come to this? Where had we gone wrong? I wanted to confront Megan immediately, but I knew I had to wait. I needed to gather my thoughts to figure out what I was going to say. When she finally came home, she was all smiles. "Hey, honey, sorry I'm late. We had an amazing discussion about Hitchcock tonight." I forced a smile. "It's okay. I'm glad you had a good time." But inside, I was falling apart. The woman I loved was slipping away from me, and I didn't know if I could ever get her back. Days turned into weeks, and Megan's routine remained unchanged. She continued attending her film club meetings, always returning home late with tales of fascinating discussions and new films to watch. I listened, nodding in all the right places, but inside, the suspicion gnawed at me like a relentless predator. One evening, while Megan was out, I decided to look through her things. I felt a pang of guilt as I rummaged through her desk drawer, but I needed to know the truth. Hidden beneath a pile of papers, I found a small notebook. Flipping through the pages, I discovered notes about films, dates of meetings, and mentions of James. Lots of mentions. It was clear they spent a lot of time together, both in and outside of the club. I closed the notebook, my mind racing. Was this evidence of an affair, or was I just being paranoid? Later that night, as we sat down for dinner, I tried to broach the subject delicately. "You talk about James a lot. He seems like a good friend." Megan looked up from her plate, her expression neutral. "Yeah, he is. We have a lot in common." "Do you ever hang out outside of the club?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Sometimes," she said, shrugging. "We've grabbed coffee a few times to discuss movies. It's nothing serious." Her words did little to ease my mind. I wanted to believe her, but the memory of their intimate moment at the cafe haunted me. I needed to know more. The next Wednesday, I decided to follow her again. This time, I was more prepared. I wore a baseball cap and sunglasses, hoping to blend in with the evening crowd. Megan drove to the theater as usual, and I parked a safe distance away. I watched as she greeted James, their hug just as long and warm as before. They entered the theater together, and I waited, my heart pounding. After an hour or so, they emerged and headed to a nearby park. I trailed them, keeping to the shadows. They sat on a bench, their heads close together as they talked. James reached out and took her hand, and she didn't pull away. Instead, she leaned her head on his shoulder, and they sat in silence, the intimacy between them undeniable. I took a deep breath, my heart breaking all over again. I snapped a few more photos, my hands trembling. This was the confirmation I needed, but it didn't make the betrayal any easier to bear. When they finally parted, I returned home, my mind a whirlwind of emotions. I wanted to confront Megan immediately, but I knew I had to wait for the right moment. I needed to be calm and collected, to make her understand the gravity of her actions. That night, as she slipped into bed beside me, I felt a cold distance between us. "How was your evening?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Good," she replied, her tone cheerful. "We watched a classic film and had a great discussion." I nodded, unable to find the words to express the storm raging inside me. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but I knew I had to wait. Confronting her in anger wouldn't solve anything. The next morning, I made a decision. I would talk to her that evening, after work. I couldn't continue living with this doubt and betrayal. I needed to hear her side of the story, to understand why she had turned to James instead of me. The hours dragged by, and I found it hard to concentrate at work. My mind kept replaying the scenes I had witnessed, the tender moments between Megan and James. When I finally returned home, Megan was already there, preparing dinner. "We need to talk," I said, my voice trembling slightly. She looked up, concern etched on her face. "What's wrong?" I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the conversation ahead. "I know about you and James. I've seen you together." Her eyes widened, and she took a step back, her face paling. "What are you talking about?" "I followed you," I admitted, the words tasting bitter in my mouth. "I saw you at the cafe, at the park. I know you've been spending a lot of time with him." For a moment she was silent, her eyes filling with tears. "It's not what you think," she whispered. "James and we're just friends. We have a lot in common, but there's nothing more to it." "Then why the secrecy? Why the late nights and the messages?" I demanded, my voice rising. "If it's innocent, why didn't you tell me?" "I didn't want to worry you," she said, her voice breaking. "I've been feeling disconnected, and James understands me in a way that I need right now, but I swear, it hasn't gone beyond friendship." Her words hung in the air, and I wanted to believe her, but the images of their intimate moments replayed in my mind, and I knew that our relationship had been irrevocably changed. "Why didn't you come to me?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Why didn't you tell me how you were feeling?" "I don't know," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you." We stood there in silence, the weight of her betrayal pressing down on us. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew that we had a long road ahead of us if we wanted to rebuild our trust and our love. The atmosphere in the house was heavy with unspoken words. Megan's confession had left us both reeling, and I struggled to process the emotions swirling within me: anger, sadness, and a profound sense of betrayal. The silence between us was palpable, each moment ticking by with a weight I could barely endure. That night, as Megan lay beside me, I found it impossible to sleep. My mind replayed our conversation, her tearful apologies, and the lingering question, why hadn't she come to me? I needed answers, clarity, and some semblance of peace. The next morning, I awoke early, unable to shake the tension that had settled into my bones. Megan was already up, moving quietly around the kitchen. She looked as if she hadn't slept either, dark circles under her eyes betraying her exhaustion. "We need to talk more about this," I said, breaking the uncomfortable silence. "We can't just leave things unresolved." Megan nodded, her eyes downcast. "I know, I'm so sorry, Mark. I didn't realize how far things had gone until it was too late." I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. "Why did you turn to James instead of me? What did he give you that I couldn't?" She hesitated, then finally spoke. "It wasn't about him giving me something you couldn't. It was. I felt lost, disconnected. The film club was supposed to be a distraction, a way to find myself again. But James understood that part of me, the part that loves films, that wants to discuss them endlessly. I didn't mean for it to become what it did." Her words stung, but I needed to hear them. Why didn't you tell me how you were feeling? We could have worked through it together. I was scared, she admitted. Scared that you wouldn't understand, that you'd think I was blaming you for my unhappiness. So I buried it and found solace in the wrong place. The honesty in her voice softened some of my anger, but the hurt remained. I need to know, Megan, did it ever go beyond emotional? Did you? She shook her head vehemently. No, I promise you it never became physical, but I know that doesn't make it any less painful. I stared at her, searching for any hint of deceit, but all I saw was a woman torn apart by guilt and regret. We can't go on like this. We need to rebuild what we've lost, or decide if it's even possible. Megan nodded, wiping away her tears. I want to try, Mark. I want to fix this, to make things right. Over the next few days, we talked more than we had in months. We laid everything bare, our fears, our disappointments, our hopes for the future. It was a painful process, but a necessary one. We couldn't move forward without confronting the issues that had driven us apart. One evening, Megan suggested something that caught me off guard. Maybe we should see a therapist, someone who can help us navigate this and find a way to reconnect. I was hesitant at first, but the more I thought about it, the more it seemed like a viable option. We couldn't fix this on our own. We needed guidance, someone to help us rebuild the trust that had been shattered. Okay, I agreed. Let's give it a try. Our first session was awkward, both of us unsure of what to say or how to act. But the therapist, Dr. Parker, was patient and understanding. She guided us through our feelings, helping us to see things from each other's perspectives. Rebuilding trust takes time, Dr. Parker said. It requires honesty, vulnerability, and a willingness to forgive, not just each other, but yourselves as well. It wasn't easy. There were moments of frustration, times when I doubted if we could ever truly heal. But there were also moments of hope, glimpses of the love that had brought us together in the first place. One evening, after a particularly intense session, Megan and I took a walk in the park near our house. It was a place we used to go often when we first started dating, a place filled with happy memories. As we walked, she slipped her hand into mine. It was a small gesture, but it meant the world to me. Thank you for giving us a chance, she said softly. I squeezed her hand, feeling a spark of hope. We're not there yet, but we're moving in the right direction. We continued walking, talking about our hopes and dreams for the future. It wasn't a perfect moment, but it was a start. And for the first time in a long while, I felt like maybe, just maybe, we could find our way back to each other. The days after our decision to seek therapy were filled with a mix of cautious optimism and lingering doubt. Megan and I had committed to rebuilding our relationship, but the path ahead was uncertain and fraught with challenges. The scars of betrayal were deep, and it would take time and effort to heal them. Our sessions with Dr. Parker became a cornerstone of our journey. She helped us navigate our emotions and encouraged us to communicate openly and honestly. It wasn't easy to lay bare our deepest fears and insecurities, but it was necessary. Through these sessions, we began to understand the roots of our problems and how we could address them together. One evening, after a particularly insightful session, Megan and I decided to revisit some of the places that held special meaning for us. We started with the park, where we had taken our first walk after our engagement. The memories flooded back as we strolled through the familiar paths, hand in hand. Do you remember when we used to come here every weekend? Megan asked, her voice tinged with nostalgia. I nodded, smiling at the memory. Of course. We used to sit by the lake and dream about our future. Those were good times, she said softly. I want us to have more of those. So do I replied, squeezing her hand. We just have to keep working at it. We continued our walk, talking about the future and the steps we needed to take to rebuild our trust. It was a slow process, but each small step forward felt like a victory. We knew we couldn't erase the past, but we could create new memories and build a stronger foundation for our relationship. One of the most significant changes came in how we spent our time together. Megan decided to take a break from the film club, recognizing that it had become a source of tension between us. Instead, we found new activities that we both enjoyed. We started cooking dinner together, trying out new recipes and laughing at our culinary mishaps. We took up hiking, exploring trails we had never ventured on before. Our evenings were no longer filled with the uncomfortable silence that had plagued us for so long. Instead, we talked, really talked, about our days, our dreams, and our fears. We rediscovered the connection that had first drawn us to each other, and it felt like we were finally starting to heal. One Saturday, Megan suggested something that took me by surprise. How about we have a movie night, just the two of us? I hesitated for a moment, the memories of her time with James still fresh in my mind. But I saw the sincerity in her eyes, the genuine desire to share something she loved with me. "I'd like that," I said, smiling. We spent the evening watching one of her favorite classic films. As the credits rolled, Megan turned to me, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you for giving this a chance. It means a lot to me." "I'm glad we did it," I replied, pulling her close. "We're making new memories, and that's what matters." As the weeks turned into months, the bond between us grew stronger. The pain of the past was still there, but it no longer defined us. We had faced our struggles head-on, and we were emerging from the other side with a renewed sense of hope and commitment. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, Megan turned to me with a serious expression. "I know we've come a long way, but I want to make sure we keep moving forward. How do you feel about continuing therapy, even after things have improved?" I thought about it for a moment. "I think it's a good idea. It's helped us a lot, and having someone to guide us has been invaluable." She smiled, looking relieved. "I'm glad you feel that way. I just want us to keep growing, to keep building on what we've started." "We will," I promised, taking her hand. "We've come this far, and we'll keep going." Our journey wasn't over, but we had taken significant steps toward healing. The road ahead would still have its challenges, but we were facing it together, stronger and more united than ever before. And as we sat there, watching the sun dip below the horizon, I felt a sense of peace and hope that I hadn't felt in a long time. We were building bridges, mending what had been broken, and creating a future that we both believed in. It wasn't perfect, but it was real, and it was ours. Despite our progress, the shadow of doubt still lingered over our relationship. The wounds from Megan's emotional affair with James were slow to heal, and I found myself grappling with feelings of insecurity and mistrust. Every time Megan's phone buzzed, a flicker of anxiety sparked within me. Was it James again? Were they still in contact despite her assurances otherwise? One evening, as we sat down for dinner, I noticed Megan's phone light up with a message. She glanced at it quickly, then put it face down on the table. My heart tightened. I couldn't ignore the nagging suspicion any longer. "Who was that?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She looked up, surprise evident in her eyes. "Oh, it's just a friend from the film club. They were asking for a movie recommendation." The casual tone in her voice did little to quell my unease. "Are you still talking to James?" Megan's face fell, and she let out a sigh. "Mark, we've been through this. I told you, I cut off contact with him. I know I hurt you, and I'm trying my best to make things right." "I know," I said, struggling to articulate the turmoil inside me. "But it's hard to forget. Every time your phone goes off, I can't help but wonder." Megan reached across the table and took my hand. "I understand. Trust takes time to rebuild, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to regain yours." I squeezed her hand, grateful for her patience but still feeling the weight of my doubts. "I want to trust you, Megan. I really do. But it's going to take time." Over the next few weeks, Megan made a concerted effort to be more transparent. She shared her plans with me in advance, kept her phone in plain sight, and even suggested we go through her messages together, if it would help ease my mind. While her efforts were reassuring, the deep-seated fear of betrayal remained. One Saturday, we decided to take a day trip to the countryside, hoping a change of scenery would help us reconnect. As we drove through the winding roads, surrounded by the beauty of nature, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. We talked about our dreams for the future, the places we wanted to visit, and the life we envisioned together. At a picturesque spot by a lake, we stopped for a picnic. The serene surroundings and the warm sun on our faces made it easy to forget our troubles, if only for a moment. As we sat on the blanket, Megan turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "Mark, I've been thinking," she began. "Maybe we should consider moving. A fresh start in a new place might help us leave the past behind and focus on our future." The idea caught me off guard, but the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. A new environment could provide the reset we needed, away from the memories and associations that haunted us. That's a big step, I said, but it might be what we need. Megan smiled, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. Let's look into it. We can explore our options and see if it feels right. As the days passed, we began researching new places to live. The process was exciting and gave us a shared goal to work toward. We spent our evenings discussing potential neighborhoods, making pros and cons lists, and dreaming about the possibilities. However, the trust issues still lingered. One night, I couldn't sleep and found myself scrolling through Megan's social media profiles. I stumbled upon an old message from James that she had missed deleting. It was innocent enough, but it reignited all my fears. I felt a surge of anger and hurt, and without thinking, I woke Megan up. "What's this?" I demanded, showing her the message. Megan rubbed her eyes, confused and disoriented. "Mark, what are you doing?" "This message from James," I said, my voice shaking. "I thought you said you cut him off." She looked at the screen, her face falling as she realized what I had found. "I did, Mark. I must have missed that one. It means nothing." "It doesn't feel like nothing," I snapped, the pain and frustration boiling over. "How can I trust you if you keep things like this?" Tears welled up in Megan's eyes. "I'm trying, Mark. I'm really trying. But you have to meet me halfway. We can't move forward if you keep holding on to every little thing." Her words hit me hard. I knew she was right, but the fear of being hurt again was overwhelming. "I don't know how to let go," I admitted, my voice breaking. Megan took my hand, her touch gentle and reassuring. "We'll figure it out together, but you have to believe that I'm committed to us, to making this work." I nodded, feeling the weight of my insecurities, but also the determination to overcome them. "I'll try, Megan, I promise." Rebuilding trust was proving to be the hardest part of our journey, but as we sat there in the darkness holding hands, I realized that it was a challenge we had to face together. The road ahead was still uncertain, but we were both committed to navigating it, one step at a time. Our decision to move had given us a renewed sense of purpose, but the underlying issues in our relationship still needed addressing. Trust was fragile, and without professional help, we risked falling back into old patterns. So we continued our sessions with Dr. Parker, delving deeper into the root causes of our problems and learning new ways to communicate and connect. During one session, Dr. Parker introduced an exercise that required us to express our feelings openly without fear of judgment. "I want you both to share one thing you appreciate about each other and one thing you need to feel more secure in this relationship," she instructed. Megan went first. "Mark, I appreciate your commitment to making this work. You've shown incredible patience and understanding. To feel more secure, I need reassurance that we're both in this together, that we're both committed to rebuilding what we've lost." I nodded, taking in her words. "Megan, I appreciate your willingness to be transparent and make changes to rebuild our trust. To feel more secure, I need to know that our communication will remain open and honest, that there won't be any more secrets." Dr. Parker smiled. "This exercise is about recognizing each other's efforts and needs. Keep practicing this at home. It will help you build a stronger foundation." As we continued our sessions, we explored deeper issues, our individual insecurities, our fears, and the reasons behind our actions. Dr. Parker guided us through exercises designed to improve our communication and understanding. We learned to listen without interrupting, to empathize with each other's perspectives, and to express our feelings without blame or defensiveness. One evening, after a particularly enlightening session, Megan and I sat down to discuss our future. "I've been thinking about what Dr. Parker said today," Megan began, "about how we need to find new ways to connect and rebuild trust." "I've been thinking about it too," I replied. "What if we set aside time each week just for us? No distractions, no phones, just time to focus on each other." Megan's face lit up. "I love that idea. We could have a date night or just spend time talking and reconnecting." We decided to start that very week. Every Friday we set aside the evening for ourselves. Sometimes we went out for dinner, other times we stayed in and cooked together, but the important thing was that we dedicated that time to each other. It became a ritual, a way to reaffirm our commitment to rebuilding our relationship. Despite our progress, there were still moments of doubt and fear. One evening, as we were getting ready for bed, Megan hesitated before speaking. "Mark, I've been thinking about James. Not because I miss him, but because I need to make peace with what happened. My heart pounded, but I listened carefully. What do you mean? I think I need to talk to him, she said, her voice trembling. To get closure, to make it clear that there's no future for us and that I'm committed to you. The idea of Megan talking to James terrified me, but I understood her need for closure. If that's what you need, then I support you. But I'd like to be there, to make sure it's just about closure. She nodded, relieved. Thank you, Mark. I want to do this the right way. We arranged to meet James at a local cafe. As we walked in, my anxiety spiked, but I stayed focused on supporting Megan. James looked surprised to see me, but he nodded respectfully. Megan took a deep breath. James, I need to talk to you. What happened between us was a mistake. I've hurt Mark deeply, and I need to make things right with him. There's no future for us. I'm committed to my marriage. James looked pained but understanding. I get it, Megan. I wish you both the best. The conversation was brief but necessary. As we left the cafe, I felt a sense of relief. Megan had taken a significant step toward closure, and it felt like a weight had been lifted. Back home, we sat down to talk about the experience. I'm proud of you, I said, taking her hand. That couldn't have been easy. It wasn't, she admitted, but it was important for both of us. Our commitment to therapy and open communication was paying off. We were slowly but surely rebuilding the trust that had been shattered. It wasn't an easy journey, and there were still challenges ahead, but we were facing them together, stronger and more united than ever. Dr. Parker's guidance had been instrumental in helping us navigate this difficult period. Her insights and exercises had given us the tools we needed to rebuild our relationship. We knew that therapy wasn't a quick fix, but a continuous process that required effort and dedication from both of us. As we continued to work on our relationship, I felt a growing sense of hope. The road ahead was still uncertain, but with Megan by my side and the support of our therapist, I believed we could overcome any obstacle. We were building a future based on trust, love, and mutual respect, and that was worth fighting for. Our decision to move marked a turning point in our journey. The idea of a fresh start in a new place brought a sense of excitement and hope. We spent countless evenings researching neighborhoods, visiting potential homes, and discussing the pros and cons of each option. The process itself became a bonding experience, reinforcing our commitment to a shared future. After months of searching, we found the perfect house in a quiet suburban neighborhood. It was a charming 2-story home with a spacious yard and a cozy, inviting atmosphere. As we walked through the empty rooms, I could almost see our future unfolding. Family dinners, lazy Sunday mornings, and countless new memories waiting to be made. This feels right, Megan said, her eyes sparkling with excitement. It's like a new chapter for us. I nodded, feeling a sense of peace. It does. Let's make it our home. The move itself was hectic but filled with a sense of purpose. Friends and family pitched in to help, and their support reminded us that we weren't alone in this journey. As we unpacked boxes and arranged furniture, the house slowly transformed into our home, each room a canvas for our new beginning. One evening, as we sat on the porch enjoying the sunset, Megan turned to me with a thoughtful expression. Mark, I've been thinking about what this move means for us. It's more than just a change of scenery. It's a chance to redefine our relationship and create the life we want. I reached for her hand, feeling the warmth of her touch. You're right. This is our opportunity to start fresh, to build something even stronger than before. We made a pact to leave the past behind and focus on the future. It wasn't about forgetting what had happened, but about learning from it and growing together. We set new goals for our relationship, from small daily gestures of love and appreciation to long-term plans for travel and adventure. One of our first decisions was to establish new traditions that would strengthen our bond. We started with a weekly game night, inviting friends over for board games and laughter. It became a way to connect with others and enjoy each other's company in a relaxed, fun setting. We also made a habit of taking evening walks around the neighborhood. It was a simple routine, but it gave us time to talk, to share our thoughts and dreams, and to appreciate the quiet beauty of our new surroundings. These walks became a cherished part of our day, a reminder of the commitment we had made to each other. As the weeks turned into months, the trust between us continued to grow. We both worked hard to maintain open communication and to support each other's needs. There were still moments of doubt and insecurity, but we faced them together with honesty and compassion. One day, as we were working in the garden, Megan paused and looked at me with a smile. "You know, I never thought we'd come this far. I'm so grateful for everything we've built together." I returned her smile, feeling a surge of gratitude and love. "Me too. We've come a long way, and I'm proud of us." Our journey wasn't over, but we had made significant progress. The move had given us a fresh start, but it was our efforts and dedication that had truly transformed our relationship. We had learned to trust each other again, to communicate openly, and to cherish the love we shared. As we stood there, surrounded by the beauty of our new home, I felt a deep sense of contentment. We had faced our struggles head-on and emerged stronger and more united than ever. The road ahead would still have its challenges, but we were ready to face them together, with hope and determination. Our fresh start was more than just a new house. It was a new beginning, a chance to create the life we wanted, and to build a future filled with love, trust, and endless possibilities. And as the sun set on another beautiful day, I knew that we were exactly where we were meant to be, together. Life in our new home began to settle into a comfortable routine. The fresh start had brought us closer, and we enjoyed the new experiences and traditions we had established. However, as with any journey, new challenges inevitably arose, testing the strength of our relationship. One such challenge emerged when Megan decided to return to the film club. She had missed the camaraderie and the intellectual discussions, and she was eager to re-engage with something that had once been a source of joy. I supported her decision, understanding her need to reconnect with her passions. However, her return to the film club brought back old insecurities. I couldn't shake the fear that history might repeat itself, that she might find herself drawn to someone else again. It wasn't a matter of distrust, but a lingering vulnerability that seemed to resurface every time she mentioned the club. One evening, Megan came home from a film club meeting, visibly excited. "We watched an incredible movie tonight. You should have been there. The discussion was so engaging." I forced a smile, trying to hide my unease. "That sounds great. I'm glad you had a good time." But the nagging fear wouldn't go away. I began to find myself overanalyzing Megan's interactions, scrutinizing her behavior for signs of something more. I knew it wasn't healthy, but the old insecurities were difficult to shake. One day, as I was deep in thought, Megan approached me with concern. "Mark, I've noticed you've been distant lately. Is everything okay?" I hesitated, struggling to find the right words. "I guess I'm just worried. You being back at the film club, seeing you excited and engaged, it brings up old fears." Megan looked taken aback, but her expression softened with understanding. "I didn't realize it was affecting you this way. I'm sorry, I'm still committed to us, and I want to be open with you about everything." We decided to address these concerns directly. Megan and I began to have more frequent, open conversations about our feelings and fears. We talked about setting boundaries that made both of us comfortable and found ways to reassure each other. It was a delicate balance between supporting Megan's interests and addressing my insecurities. One evening, we attended a film festival together. It was an event Megan had been looking forward to, and I wanted to support her while also addressing my own anxieties. We spent the day exploring the festival, attending screenings, and discussing the films in depth. It was a wonderful experience, and it reminded me of the joy we once shared in our mutual interests. As we walked through the festival grounds, Megan turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "Mark, I know this is difficult for you, but I want you to know that being here with you means a lot to me. I'm committed to making this work, and I appreciate your support." Her words reassured me, and I felt a renewed sense of hope. "I appreciate you understanding my concerns. I'm learning to trust again, and being here with you today helps." We continued to work on strengthening our relationship through these shared experiences. We established a routine of attending events together and discussing our feelings openly. We also made a concerted effort to focus on the positive aspects of our relationship and to celebrate our successes. One day, as we were reflecting on our journey, Megan suggested we take a weekend trip to a nearby city we had always wanted to visit. "Let's take a break from our routine and explore somewhere new. It could be a great way to reconnect and enjoy each other's company." I agreed enthusiastically. "That sounds perfect. Let's do it." The trip was rejuvenating. We explored the city's landmarks, tried new foods, and enjoyed each other's company without the usual pressures and distractions. It was a reminder of why we had fallen in love in the first place and helped us to reconnect on a deeper level. As we returned home, I felt a renewed sense of commitment and optimism. The challenges we faced were not insurmountable, but rather opportunities to grow and strengthen our bond. We had learned to address our insecurities, to communicate openly, and to support each other through difficult times. Our journey was far from over, but each step we took together brought us closer. We were building a future based on trust, understanding, and mutual respect. And as we looked ahead, I felt confident that, with Megan by my side, we could face whatever challenges came our way. With the foundation of our relationship steadily rebuilding, Megan and I began to branch out, seeking new connections and friendships in our new community. We realized that having a strong support system was crucial, not just for us as individuals, but also for our relationship. Embracing this new chapter meant opening our lives to others and enriching our social network. One Saturday morning, we attended a neighborhood barbecue. It was a lively gathering with families, couples, and singles all mingling and enjoying the warm weather. Megan and I were excited to meet new people and become a part of the community. As we arrived, we were warmly welcomed by our neighbors. We quickly found ourselves deep in conversation with a couple around our age, Jack and Allison. They had moved to the neighborhood a few years earlier and shared our enthusiasm for film and travel. As the afternoon progressed, we found ourselves laughing and sharing stories, feeling an instant connection with them. "You two should join our trivia nights," Jack suggested. "We host them once a month, and it's a great way to get to know everyone." Megan's eyes lit up. "That sounds like so much fun. We'd love to." Over the next few weeks, we made an effort to engage with our new friends. We attended the trivia nights at Jack and Allison's place, joined local events, and even hosted a movie night at our house. It felt invigorating to be surrounded by new faces and to build relationships that were based on mutual interests and respect. One evening, after a particularly enjoyable trivia night, Megan and I sat on our porch, reflecting on the changes in our lives. "I'm so glad we decided to move here," Megan said, her voice filled with contentment. "It feels like we're building a new life, full of possibilities." I nodded, sharing her sentiment. "It does, and it's not just about the place. It's the people we're meeting and the connections we're forming. It's helping us grow stronger." Our newfound friendships also provided valuable support. When we faced moments of doubt or insecurity, we found comfort in sharing our experiences with others who understood and empathized. It wasn't just about us anymore. We were part of a larger community that cared and supported each other. One day, as we were preparing for another social event, Megan turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "Mark, I've been thinking about how much we've grown. This move, these new connections, they've all played a part in helping us heal and move forward." I smiled, feeling a sense of pride in how far we had come. We've done a lot of work, both on ourselves and on our relationship, and it's paying off. As we continued to immerse ourselves in our new community, we found that our relationship grew stronger. We supported each other's interests and activities, celebrated each other's successes, and provided comfort during challenging times. The insecurities that once plagued us were slowly fading, replaced by a deeper sense of trust and understanding. One evening, Megan came home from a film club meeting, excited about a new project. The club is organizing a film festival, and they've asked me to help coordinate it. It's a big responsibility, but I think it could be really rewarding. I could see the passion in her eyes, and I wanted to support her in every way possible. "That sounds amazing, Megan. I'm so proud of you. How can I help?" She smiled, grateful for my support. "Just knowing you're behind me means everything. Maybe you could help with some of the logistics and planning?" "Absolutely," I agreed, eager to be a part of her project. "We'll make it a success together." The film festival became a significant milestone for us. Working together on something Megan was passionate about brought us even closer. We spent countless evenings planning, organizing, and executing the event. It was a labor of love, and seeing it come to life was incredibly fulfilling. The festival was a resounding success, and as we stood together, watching the final film screening, I felt a deep sense of pride and accomplishment. We had faced so many challenges, but we had come through stronger and more united. After the festival, we celebrated with our friends and neighbors, sharing stories and laughter. It was a moment of pure joy, a testament to the strength of our relationship and the power of community. As we sat together that night, Surrounded by our new friends, Megan took my hand. "We've come so far, Mark. I'm so grateful for everything we've built together." I squeezed her hand, feeling a profound sense of love and gratitude. "Me too, Megan. We've faced our challenges, and we've grown stronger because of them. This is just the beginning of our new chapter." Our journey had taught us the importance of trust, communication, and support. We had learned to embrace new experiences and connections, and in doing so, we had created a life full of love, joy, and endless possibilities. And as we looked ahead, we knew that together, we could face whatever challenges came our way with a renewed sense of hope and determination. Just when life seemed to be settling into a comfortable and fulfilling routine, Megan and I were met with an unexpected surprise. One morning, Megan woke up feeling unwell. Initially, we attributed it to stress or perhaps something she ate, but when the symptoms persisted, we decided it was time to see a doctor. Sitting in the waiting room, my mind raced with possibilities. Megan squeezed my hand reassuringly. "Whatever it is, we'll face it together," she said softly. The doctor's office felt cold and clinical, a stark contrast to the warmth and love I felt for Megan. As we waited for the results, my heart pounded in my chest. Finally, the doctor walked in with a warm smile. "Congratulations," she said. "You're going to have a baby." Megan and I stared at each other in stunned silence. A baby. It was a life-changing revelation, one we hadn't anticipated but immediately embraced. Tears welled up in Megan's eyes, and I felt a wave of emotions wash over me. Joy, fear, excitement, and an overwhelming sense of responsibility. We spent the next few days processing the news. Our home, which had already become a symbol of our fresh start, now held the promise of new life. We began to prepare for the arrival of our baby, transforming a spare room into a nursery and reading everything we could about parenthood. Our friends and family were thrilled by the news. Jack and Allison, who had become our closest friends, were especially excited. "You guys are going to be amazing parents," Allison said, hugging Megan tightly. As Megan's pregnancy progressed, we faced new challenges and joys. There were the usual ups and downs: morning sickness, doctor's appointments, and the constant roller coaster of emotions. But through it all, we grew even closer, united by our shared excitement and love for our unborn child. One evening, as we were putting together a crib, Megan paused and looked at me with a tender expression. "Mark, I'm so grateful for you, for us. This baby is going to be so loved." I smiled, feeling the weight of her words. "I'm grateful too, Megan. This baby is a testament to our journey, our love, and everything we've built together." We spent hours discussing our hopes and dreams for our child. We wanted to provide a loving, supportive environment where our baby could grow and thrive. We talked about the kind of parents we wanted to be and the values we wanted to instill. As the due date approached, our excitement grew. We attended prenatal classes together, learning the ins and outs of childbirth and parenting. We read books, watched videos, and sought advice from friends and family. It was a time of intense preparation and bonding as we navigated this new phase of our lives together. The day finally arrived. Megan went into labor early one morning, and we rushed to the hospital, a mix of nerves and excitement. The hours that followed were a blur of pain, anticipation, and an overwhelming sense of awe. I held Megan's hand, offering words of encouragement and support. When our baby girl finally arrived, the world seemed to stop. Holding her in my arms for the first time was an indescribable feeling. She was so small, so perfect, a beautiful symbol of our love and resilience. Megan looked up at me, exhausted but radiant. "She's perfect, Mark. What should we name her?" We had discussed names for months, but in that moment, one name stood out. "Grace," I said softly. "She's our little Grace." Tears filled Megan's eyes as she nodded. "Grace, it's perfect." Bringing Grace home was an emotional experience. Our house, which had already felt like a sanctuary, now held the precious sounds of a newborn. We spent sleepless nights feeding and soothing her, each moment a reminder of the incredible journey we had undertaken. Our friends and family rallied around us, offering support and love. Jack and Allison were frequent visitors, bringing meals and helping with the baby. "She's beautiful," Jack said, cradling Grace gently. "You're doing great, both of you." As the weeks turned into months, we settled into our new roles as parents. It wasn't always easy. There were challenges and sleepless nights, but the joy far outweighed the difficulties. Watching Grace grow and change brought a sense of wonder and fulfillment we had never imagined. One evening, as we sat on the porch holding our sleeping daughter, Megan looked at me with a content smile. "This is everything I ever dreamed of, Mark. Our family, our home. It's perfect." I kissed her forehead, feeling an overwhelming sense of love and gratitude. "It really is. We've been through so much, but it's all been worth it. Grace is our greatest gift." Our journey had taken us through trials and tribulations, but it had also brought us to this incredible moment. We had built a life full of love, trust, and new beginnings. And as we looked ahead, we knew that together, we could face any challenge, embrace any joy, and create a future filled with endless possibilities for our little family. The early days of parenthood were a whirlwind of joy and exhaustion. Grace brought a new rhythm to our lives, one dictated by feedings, diaper changes, and the soothing sounds of lullabies. Every moment was a learning experience, filled with discoveries about ourselves and each other as we adapted to our new roles as parents. Megan and I quickly realized that teamwork was essential. We divided the responsibilities, taking turns with nighttime feedings and diaper changes, and supported each other through the inevitable challenges. Our communication, which had improved so much since the affair, became even more crucial. We were constantly checking in with each other, making sure neither of us felt overwhelmed or isolated. One afternoon, while Grace was napping, Megan and I sat down to talk about our new routine. "I think we're doing pretty well, all things considered," Megan said, her eyes tired but content. "But I'm worried about you. You're taking on so much, and I don't want you to burn out." I smiled, touched by her concern. "I'm okay, really. It's a lot, but we're in this together. How about you? How are you feeling?" Megan sighed, leaning back into the couch. "Some days are harder than others. But when I look at Grace, it's all worth it. I just want to make sure we're both taking care of ourselves, too." We decided to set aside time each week for self-care. Sometimes it was a long bath for Megan while I watched Grace, or a few hours of uninterrupted sleep for me. We also made sure to keep up with our weekly movie nights, though they were often interrupted by Grace's cries. It wasn't perfect, but it was our way of maintaining a semblance of normalcy. One of the biggest challenges we faced was balancing our new responsibilities with our individual needs and interests. Megan's involvement with the film club continued, though at a reduced pace. I encouraged her to keep participating, knowing how much it meant to her. One evening, as Megan was preparing to leave for a film club meeting, she hesitated at the door. "Are you sure you'll be okay with Grace tonight?" I smiled, giving her a reassuring nod. "Of course. Go enjoy yourself. We'll be fine." After she left, I settled in with Grace, marveling at how quickly she was growing. Holding her in my arms, I felt a deep sense of responsibility and love. I wanted to be the best father I could be, and that meant supporting Megan's passions as well as my own. The weeks turned into months and we found our rhythm. Grace's first smile, her first laugh, each milestone brought us immense joy. We celebrated together, cherishing these precious moments that made the sleepless nights and endless feedings worthwhile. Our friends and family continued to be a tremendous support. Jack and Allison in particular were always there to lend a hand or offer a listening ear. "You guys are doing an amazing job," Allison said one day, watching Grace play on the floor. "Parenthood is tough, but you're handling it with so much grace." Their support reminded us that we weren't alone. We were part of a community that cared for us and wanted to see us thrive. This sense of belonging helped us navigate the ups and downs of parenthood with more confidence. One evening, after putting Grace to bed, Megan and I sat on the porch reflecting on our journey. "It's been a wild ride," Megan said, sipping her tea, "but I wouldn't trade it for anything." I nodded, feeling a profound sense of gratitude. "Me neither. Grace has brought so much joy into our lives, and she's made us stronger." We talked about our hopes and dreams for Grace, about the kind of parents we wanted to be. We promised each other that we would always communicate openly, support each other's needs, and prioritize our family's well-being. Our journey was far from over, but we faced it with renewed strength and determination. The challenges of parenthood had brought us closer, reinforcing the trust and love we had rebuilt. As we looked ahead, we knew that together, we could navigate any obstacle and create a life full of joy and love for our little family. Our story had taken many turns, but each chapter had led us to this beautiful moment. We were no longer defined by the past, but by the love and commitment we shared. And as we embraced the future, we did so with hearts full of hope and the unwavering belief that, together, we could overcome anything. As Grace continued to grow and our lives settled into a new routine, Megan and I realized we needed to focus on another crucial aspect of our relationship: rediscovering our intimacy. Parenthood had brought us closer in many ways, but the demands of caring for a newborn often left little time or energy for us to connect as a couple. One evening, after a particularly exhausting day, we sat down together once Grace was finally asleep. Megan looked at me, her eyes reflecting the same weariness I felt. "Mark, I miss us. I miss the closeness we used to have." I nodded, understanding exactly what she meant. "I do too, Megan. It's been hard to find time for just us, but I think we need to make it a priority." We decided to take small steps to rekindle our connection. The first step was setting aside one evening each week as a date night. We asked Jack and Allison if they could babysit Grace for a few hours, and they were more than happy to help. "You two deserve some time to yourselves," Jack said with a smile. "We'd love to watch Grace." Our first date night was simple but meaningful. We went to a cozy restaurant in town, enjoying a quiet dinner without the usual interruptions. It felt strange at first being away from Grace, but it also reminded us of the importance of nurturing our relationship. We talked about everything: our dreams, our fears, and our plans for the future. It felt like we were rediscovering each other all over again. As the weeks went by, our date nights became a cherished routine. Sometimes we went out for dinner, other times we stayed in and cooked together, enjoying a quiet evening at home. These moments allowed us to reconnect and strengthen the bond that had brought us through so much. One evening, after putting Grace to bed, we decided to have a movie night. We chose an old favorite, one of the films that had first brought us together. As we snuggled on the couch, I felt a sense of warmth and closeness that had been missing for a while. "This is nice," Megan said softly, resting her head on my shoulder. "I've missed this." I kissed her forehead, feeling a deep sense of contentment. "Me too. It feels good to just be together." Our efforts to reconnect extended beyond our weekly date nights. We started leaving little notes for each other, small reminders of our love and appreciation. I would find a note in my lunchbox from Megan, telling me how much she loved me, and I would leave one on her pillow, expressing my gratitude for everything she did for our family. We also made a conscious effort to show affection in our daily interactions. A hug in the morning, a kiss goodnight, holding hands while watching TV. It was the little things that made a big difference. These gestures helped to keep the spark alive and reminded us of the love that had brought us together. One weekend, we decided to take a short trip to the countryside, leaving Grace with my parents. It was the first time we had been away from her for an extended period, and we were both a little anxious. But it was also an opportunity to focus on us, to reconnect and enjoy each other's company without distractions. The trip was everything we needed. We hiked through scenic trails, enjoyed quiet dinners by the fireplace, and spent hours talking about our hopes and dreams. It was a chance to rediscover the intimacy that had been overshadowed by the demands of parenthood. As we sat by the fire one evening, Megan looked at me with a content smile. "This has been wonderful, Mark. I feel like we've found each other again." I took her hand, feeling a deep sense of love and gratitude. "We have, and it's made me realize how important it is to keep nurturing our relationship, no matter how busy life gets." When we returned home, we were greeted with Grace's delighted squeals and my parents' warm smiles. It felt good to be back, but we also carried the memories of our trip with us, a reminder of the importance of maintaining our connection. Our journey to rediscover intimacy was ongoing, but each step brought us closer. We had faced so many challenges together, and through it all, our love had grown stronger. By making time for each other and prioritizing our relationship, we were creating a solid foundation for our future. As we settled back into our routine, I felt a renewed sense of hope and commitment. Megan and I were not just parents. We were partners, lovers, and best friends. And as we continued to navigate the joys and challenges of life, we did so with a deep, unwavering love that would carry us through anything. With Grace thriving and our relationship stronger than ever, Megan and I felt a renewed sense of optimism about our future. However, life has a way of throwing unexpected challenges our way, and it wasn't long before we found ourselves navigating yet another difficult situation. One afternoon, Megan came home from work looking unusually tense. She sat down at the kitchen table, her face etched with worry. "Mark, we need to talk," she said, her voice trembling slightly. I sat down across from her, my heart sinking. "What's wrong, Megan?" She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. "There have been some major changes at the office. The company's restructuring and they're making cuts. A lot of people are losing their jobs, and I'm one of them." The news hit me like a punch to the gut. Megan had worked hard to build her career, and I knew how much it meant to her. I reached out, taking her hand in mine. "I'm so sorry, Megan. We'll get through this, I promise." Over the next few days, we discussed our options and formulated a plan. We knew we had to be pragmatic and focus on what we could control. Megan immediately started updating her resume and reaching out to her professional network. I took on additional freelance projects to help cushion the financial impact. Despite the uncertainty, Megan remained determined. "I'm going to find something better," she said one evening as we sat on the porch. "This might be a blessing in disguise." Her resilience inspired me, and we both threw ourselves into our work with renewed vigor. Megan spent hours applying for jobs, attending networking events, and honing her skills. We knew it would be a challenging road, but we faced it together, supporting each other every step of the way. As the weeks turned into months, Megan faced numerous rejections and setbacks. Each one was a blow, but she never let it break her spirit. We leaned on our friends and family for support, and they rallied around us, offering encouragement and practical assistance. One day, Megan received an invitation for an interview at a well-regarded company. It was a position that matched her skills and passions perfectly. She prepared meticulously, and I helped her practice potential interview questions, offering feedback and encouragement. The day of the interview arrived, and Megan left the house with a mix of nerves and excitement. I spent the day trying to stay busy, my thoughts constantly drifting to her. When she finally returned, her face was lit up with a hopeful smile. "How did it go?" I asked, unable to contain my curiosity. "I think it went really well," she replied, her eyes sparkling with excitement. They seemed impressed, and I felt confident. We waited anxiously for the response, our hopes high. When the call finally came, Megan's face broke into a wide grin. "I got the job," she exclaimed, tears of joy streaming down her cheeks. We celebrated the news with a special dinner, feeling a sense of relief and accomplishment. This new job was not only a fresh start for Megan, but also a testament to her perseverance and strength. As Megan settled into her new role, we continued to adjust to the changes in our lives. We learned to balance the demands of work, parenthood, and our relationship, constantly adapting and growing together. The challenges we faced had brought us closer, reinforcing the bond we shared. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, Megan turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "You know, Mark, this whole experience has made me realize how strong we are together. No matter what life throws at us, we've proven that we can handle it." I nodded, feeling a deep sense of pride and love. We really have, and I know that whatever comes next, we'll face it together. Our journey had been filled with unexpected twists and turns, but each challenge had strengthened our relationship and deepened our love. As we looked ahead to the future, we did so with confidence, knowing that we could overcome any obstacle as long as we had each other. The road ahead might be uncertain, but we were ready to face it together, hand in hand, with a shared sense of hope and determination. Our story was far from over, and as we embraced the future, we knew that the love and resilience we had built would carry us through whatever came our way. With Megan flourishing in her new job, and Grace growing into a lively and curious toddler, our lives felt full of promise and excitement. The challenges we had faced had only made us stronger, more united, and more determined to cherish every moment together. One crisp autumn afternoon, Megan and I took Grace to the park. As we watched her play, her laughter filling the air, Megan turned to me with a smile. "I've been thinking a lot about the future, Mark," she said, "about what we want for our family." I nodded, understanding the sentiment. "I've been thinking about that too. What do you see for us?" Megan looked thoughtful, her eyes reflecting a mix of hope and determination. "I see us continuing to grow to support each other, and I've been thinking about something else too. What if we expanded our family? The idea took me by surprise, but as I looked at Grace playing happily, I felt a warmth spread through me. You mean another baby? Megan nodded, her smile widening. Yes, I think we're ready for it. We've come so far, and I feel like our family has more love to give. We spent the rest of the day discussing the idea, weighing the pros and cons, and imagining what it would be like to have another child. By the time we returned home, we felt a sense of excitement and anticipation about the future. In the months that followed, we began planning and preparing for this new chapter in our lives. Megan's job continued to go well, and we both found ways to balance our professional and personal responsibilities. We leaned on our support network, drawing strength from our friends and family. One evening, Megan came home with a special glow. I could tell something was different. She handed me a small gift box, her eyes twinkling with excitement. Inside, I found a tiny pair of baby shoes and a positive pregnancy test. Tears filled my eyes as I looked at Megan, my heart swelling with joy. We're having another baby, I whispered, pulling her into a tight embrace. This is incredible. Our excitement only grew as Megan's pregnancy progressed. We involved Grace in the preparations, helping her understand that she would soon be a big sister. She was thrilled, often talking to Megan's growing belly and imagining all the things she would do with her new sibling. The months flew by, filled with prenatal appointments, baby showers, and the joyful anticipation of welcoming a new life into our family. We decided not to find out the baby's gender, wanting to be surprised when the moment finally arrived. One crisp spring morning, Megan woke me with a gentle shake. "Mark, it's time," she said, her voice calm but urgent. We hurried to the hospital, excitement and nerves intertwining. The hours that followed were intense, filled with the familiar mix of pain and anticipation. I held Megan's hand, offering words of encouragement and love. When our baby finally arrived, the room filled with the sweet sound of newborn cries. The doctor handed us a beautiful baby boy, and we both felt an overwhelming sense of love and gratitude. "He's perfect," Megan whispered, tears of joy streaming down her face. "What should we name him?" We had discussed names throughout the pregnancy, but in that moment, one name stood out. "Matthew," I said softly. "It feels right." Megan smiled, nodding in agreement. "Matthew, welcome to the world, little one." Bringing Matthew home was a beautiful and chaotic experience. Our house, already filled with love, now overflowed with the joyful sounds of a growing family. Grace embraced her role as a big sister with enthusiasm, often helping with diaper changes and singing lullabies to her baby brother. Our friends and family were overjoyed, their support once again invaluable. Jack and Allison, now parents themselves, often visited with their own little one, and our home was filled with the joyful chaos of children playing and adults sharing stories and laughter. As we settled into this new chapter, Megan and I took moments to reflect on how far we had come. We had faced trials and tribulations, but each challenge had strengthened our bond and deepened our love. One evening, after putting the kids to bed, we sat on the porch watching the stars twinkle in the night sky. Megan leaned against me, her hand in mine. "We've built something beautiful, Mark. Our family, our life, it's more than I ever dreamed." I kissed her forehead, feeling a deep sense of contentment and gratitude. "It really is, and I know that whatever the future holds, we'll face it together, with love and strength." Our journey had been filled with unexpected twists and turns, but each step had brought us closer, creating a foundation of love and resilience. As we looked ahead to the future, we did so with confidence, knowing that our family was built on a strong and unbreakable bond. We had weathered storms and celebrated countless joys, and through it all, we had grown and thrived. Our story was one of love, perseverance, and the unending journey of creating a life filled with happiness and hope. And as we embraced the future, we did so with hearts full of love, ready to face whatever came our way together.